Hello, Facebook tribe, friends and family. This is Orange Naranja, Orange Naranja, Orange Naranja, Orange Naranja, the orangiest orange on the apple tree. Okay, now that I got that out of the way, so today's Facebook Live challenge is actually 29 out of 30, and I can't believe it. I have one more to go, and today I'm going to be talking about empathy, and what it is to be an empath. It's a word that's thrown around loosely nowadays. Everybody's an empath. And they'll tell you, if you read articles and things of that nature, they'll tell you that, people will feel drained and people will feel a certain type of way when they're out in the crowds. And, to protect your energy, guard your energy. But I'm going to go into detail what it is to be an empath, the different types of empath, and what can you do, if you can do anything to develop empathy ability. So I made some notes because I wanted to make sure that I covered most of my points. I'll be posting the website, or at least one of the websites that I used the advice from, and on the 6 ways that you can develop empathy. And we'll start with defining what is an empath. So an empath is a person with paranormal ability to accurately, let me start over. An empath is a person with paranormal ability which accurately experiences another person's internal world, emotional pain, and inner conflict. Now, there are different types of empaths. And I wanted to mention something. I knew I was an empath. As far as I can remember, I was about 8 or 9 years old. It was in the late 80s, and I was watching TV, and AIDS was a big thing at that time, and there was a lot of people actually passing away from AIDS. And I was looking at the TV, and I was watching the TV. There were people on their deathbed suffering, and I felt their pain. I felt that pain. And I myself started crying to the point that it called my mother's attention. And she asked me why I was crying, and I let her know. I pointed to the TV, and she saw the suffering in these people, and she saw my suffering. So this is as far as I can remember that I had like some type of empathy ability. And now that I actually looked online, there's a lot more than I had imagined. So let's talk about the different types of empaths. There's actually 5 that I saw online. So the spiritual one, the first one is spiritual empath, and these are people that can connect with beings, other entities, ghosts, angels, archangels, and other entities. There's also an emotional empath. So these are people that can connect with other people's emotions, whether they see it visually or they can feel it from the other person. Because a lot of the times people, they'll feel certain ways and they'll mask their emotions with a smile, or just a blank look on their face, or or maybe anger, and to mask other emotions, to mask fear and things of that nature. So an empath, depending on how well or how deep their ability is, they'll be able to accurately define these emotions within these other people. So the next one is a knowing empath, and these are the people that can feel, that can know the thoughts of those people around them. And this is what I believe that a lot of the articles talk about people that go into large crowd being emotionally drained, apart from feeling emotions from other people. So thought, knowing empath is that one, or part of it. Each one, they can kind of intertwine with the other one. Or some people have certain characteristics from each one. And then there's the geomancy empath. This is the one that feels energy fields on this earth. So they'll go to a certain place and they'll feel if it's haunted or if it's a sacred place, or just they can roam around the earth and to different places and feel that energy, feel that vibe from the earth coming onto them. And there's a lot of places like that, especially where there's been a lot of bloodshed, or there's been, how can I say, rituals, sacrifices, and things of that nature. So the last one is nature empath, and those are the ones that can relate with like plants and trees and all natural things, and find better ways or feel better ways or think better ways of how to take care of these things. So now that I mentioned the 5 types of empaths, which are spiritual empaths, emotional empaths, knowing empaths, geomancy empaths, and nature empaths, I'll talk about why and how is being an empath empowering. So from my understanding, this is not just about a person feeling another person's or defining another person's emotion state of being. This is also about you. The more you know about another person, the more you can relate with the other person, the more you can settle into their shoes and look at life through their eyes, the more you can know about yourself, and the more you'll be able to rise up from challenges, knowing what these other people have gone through, and offering support. So that's part of being an empath. So one of the quotes or one of the sayings that I saw in this article, it says that without empathy there can be no understanding. So a plus side, there are many plus sizes, there are many pluses to being empathetic. So it helps us build better connections, it helps us develop deeper bonds and longer lasting relationships, since we're able to relate with the other person. And this is also empathy is a precursor to compassion. So it comes before compassion, and I'll talk about this one in my final Facebook Live. And what empathy is described here is compassion is what empathy is compared here is taking action to relieve another person's suffering. So I'm going to talk about the 6 ways that you can develop your empathy ability. So from my understanding, they were speaking that some people naturally have empathy ability, while other people can develop it. And if everybody practices the skills, there will be some people that develop their skills more than others, and some people don't actually need to develop skills. They're just born that way, where they can truly understand another person, they can truly understand animals, they can truly understand another living being. So for the first one, and I'll post the website where I got these from, and you can look at them, you can see how many of them you're doing already, or what you can do better, in which places you might be lacking, and how you can pick it up to make it a whole. So the first thing is, experiencing empathy can make you, this is some of the plus sizes too that I was gonna talk about. So experiencing empathy can make your own life better. By better understanding somebody else, you can better understand yourself, what I spoke of. And empathy can open your heart and let more feelings into your heart, softening tough experiences. And the third plus for practicing empathy or having it is that it boosts resilience. It boosts resilience. So that's the ability to bounce back after challenges. And as I spoke, uh, when you look at other people's situations and what they have gone through, you might be able to relate, you might not be able to relate, but you can see answers to your own life, to your own situations that you'll be able to apply into your own life, or you'll be able to apply into somebody else's life. So the first thing on how to practice empathy is imagine yourself in another person's shoes. It says every person has a unique set of beliefs, values, and perspectives that influences their opinions and how they view and interpret the world. So each person has and reacts to certain situations differently. Each one of us have our own baggage depending on how we were raised, how we were conditioned, what kind of experiences we had in this life. And to be empathetic, it would have to mean to set your own opinions, to set your own biases, to set your own beliefs on the side, be neutral, and put yourself into this other person's shoes and try to understand them. Try to not let their beliefs, their fears, their perspectives clash against yours. So if you can relate with that other person because you had similar experiences, that's a plus. But if you're not able to relate with them on that level, then you can actually try to live through their experiences and imagine yourself what it is to go through their experiences. And what this does, it creates this bond, like I spoke. It creates this connection, and it opens up a whole new world into your life. And possibly you can meet other people along this path that have gone through similar experiences, and even though you haven't experienced it for yourself, you might get answers from a certain person that you can use, you can help, you can give advice to another person that's going through a similar situation. I know it's happened to me many times where it's like connecting the pieces to the puzzles. It might not be your own puzzle, but it might be somebody else's puzzle. So the second thing to help develop empathetic abilities is investigate underlying feelings. So once you put yourself into the other person's shoes, you dig deeper to uncover the person's feelings and underlying intentions, probing questions and using gentle questions. So what does this mean? It means not taking anything for face value. Of course, we know that people will, most of them at least, and if you don't know them that well, they'll hide their true feelings. Like I mentioned, they'll mask it behind a smile, they'll mask it behind other emotions, and they'll hide their true feelings. So, using gentle probing questions, open-ended questions, like how do you feel about this? How does this situation make you feel? How does this affect you in this way? How would you be able to better manage the situation? Always being mindful of the other person's boundaries, be respectful and mindful of the other person's boundaries, because you never want to overstep. When you're practicing empathy, you never want to overstep the other person's boundaries and make it seem like you're being invasive. I mean, you are, for the most part, collecting information to better assist them, to better serve them, to better understand them, to make a better connection, but always being mindful and respectful. And the third advice that they say to develop empathetic abilities is identify the other person's experiences. And just like I spoke, maybe you won't be able to relate, but you can still imagine yourself in that other person's shoes and going through this. And it's, for the most part, for me, it's interesting. In a way, it's fun because, it's something new, it's something fresh to keep your brain and your, brain juices going, your creative thinking going. So, this is something to think about. Just because you haven't had the same experience as the other person, you can try. We all have experienced some type of emotions in this world. So we all are, how can I say, familiar with, happiness, joy, fear, sadness. So, these emotions are universal. So when going through another person's experiences, we'll be able to experience these emotions as we're going through the experience. We might not know the exact feeling of the experiences they're telling us, or they're trying to convey to us, the message that they're trying to convey to us, but at least, we're trying. So, going a little bit back to investigate underlying feelings, another thing to look for is body language. A lot can be said through facial expressions, tightness in the face or looseness in the face, body posture, and things like that. Sometimes body language doesn't match our verbal language. So we always need to be listening actively. And what does it mean by listening actively? It doesn't only mean listening. It means listening to the person's tone of voice, the pace that they're speaking at, emotional state of mind at that time. And these little subtle things are gonna give hints to what exactly is the message that they're trying to convey, because it's not only in the words. The words are just a small part of it, but most of it is in the ways that the words are expressed. It's in the ways that the person carries themselves. So number 4 of developing empathetic ability is verify the accuracy of what you're hearing. Don't take things for face value. So like I mentioned many times before, trust but verify. As we know, dealing with other human beings, people like to hold back on things, which is not a bad thing. This is like a defensive mechanism. It's a survival to hold back on certain things. You don't want everybody to know everything about yourself. But if you're true to this and you're sincere, you're caring, you're open-hearted, you want to share, you want to make a good impact in the world, then these are things that you have to, tools that you have to use so you can accurately receive these messages from other people, from other living beings. So number 5 is to offer support. So be gentle and encouraging. So offering support, sometimes even giving advice, is a little bit stepping over the boundaries, because that person might mention something private, or something that makes them feel vulnerable. And sometimes if just giving advice might make that other person a little bit more, it might make the situation awkward, or it might make the person defensive, because some people at certain times, certain situations might say, well, I'm strong enough to deal with this by myself. I don't need nobody's help. And when they see somebody helping them, they might get reactive, or they might get withdrawn. So you need to be very careful when giving advice. But if you do give advice, if you do give support, maybe gentle, maybe encouraging, maybe empowering. You can help another person just by kind words, by empowering them. And just like I mentioned, when you empower them, you empower yourself. It's not just them. It's like a chain reaction. You're not doing it for them just. You're not doing it for you just. You're doing it for more people, and it sets out into the universe in a ripple effect. So the 6th advice that they give about practicing empathetic ability is practice emotional detachment. So like I mentioned, don't get caught up on what is said during an interaction, during a conversation. Don't get caught up if this other person has different beliefs, came from a different background than you did. Understand that your way of thinking is not the only right way of thinking, if it is right at all. And understand that we are not the only ones that are living on this earth, and that there's more people that share with this earth with us that act differently and understand differently and perceive things differently based on their experiences. So when you put, I wanted to mention, when you put yourself in another person's shoes, just understand that that person might be reacting, that person might be acting because of their experiences. And if you would probably go through the same experiences that they've gone through, you probably act the same way. You probably would behave the same way, or you would behave differently. Who knows? But nobody really knows, because it's like each and every single person, each and every single human being is really like a collective being, collective on experiences, collective on mental states of mind, collective on there's just a lot of variables that come into play, and it's difficult to say that if a person faces the same situation that you do, that they're gonna react the same. Everybody's gonna react different to certain situations. We might react similar because of maybe our logic, but sometimes logic is not enough. A lot of the times it's the heart that leads is logic, or sometimes it's just things that happen, that naturally happen. So with that, this is my Facebook Live. I conclude with that. Facebook Live number 29 out of 30. And what I spoke about is defining empath, what it means to be an empath, the plus or the strong sides of what it is to be an empath and practice empathy. This is not easy. It's hard work. It's draining and could get overwhelming. That's why you need to practice emotional detachment. But in its own way, it's self-fulfilling, self-prophesizing, especially, for yourself, for your own well-being. And it's something that should be practiced more often by everybody. Maybe this is not your, maybe this is your, maybe this is your ability. Maybe it's not your ability. Don't take it personal, because it's never personal. But it is good to explore these things. And if you do explore it with caution, and explore it because it's something that you want to do. Because like I said, it's not easy when you're dealing with people. A lot of difficulties arise, and you have to be able to maneuver through it. You have to be able, one thing that I have learned is verbal jujitsu. Also empathy. Empathy helps you dissolve negative situation, helps you dissolve negative situations, and help you face challenges more confident. Just because it's like when you're living through experiences, it's like you yourself are getting experience. You yourself are gaining experience. You yourself are gaining confidence and gaining knowledge. So this helps you overall. I don't see any negative side to this. And for how much people want to write articles, for how much people want to say, well, being an empath is this and being an empath is that, the positive sides of being an empath far outweigh the negative side. So with that, this is Orange Naranja Facebook Live number 29 out of 30. Thank you for watching. And tomorrow I conclude my Facebook Live with compassion. Like I spoke, empathy is the precursor of compassion, and compassion is empathy in action. So just remember that it's part of, you want to practice compassion, also practice empathy. It's like one and the other. Both of them are tied in. You can't have one without the other. Well, you can, but you can't successfully be good at one without the other. So thank you for watching. Have a good night, good morning, good afternoon, any part of the world you're in. Peace, love, and many blessings, and thank you for watching.